agenda. What happens is, you have to go over your lives.
Good evening. Today is Thursday, February 7th, 2024. This is the Council Rock Facilities Committee meeting. My name is Nicole Khan and I am chairing the facilities meeting this evening. I would like to begin with roll call. Beginning to my left, please state your name and role.
Matt Frederickson, Director of IT.
Jessica Binda, Supervisor of Facilities.
Tony Rapp, Director of Business Administration.
Andy Sanko, Superintendent.
Michael Roosevelt, School Board.
Joe Hidalgo, School Board.
Bob Hickey, School Board.
Ann Horner, School Board.
Tracy Osaki, School Board.
Ed Tate, School Board.
Linda Stone, School Board.
Linda Pine, School Board.
Great, thank you. I believe there's a sign-in sheet and agendas at the far end of the table. If anyone just came in and grab an agenda.
I don't have one. We can share.
We'll go ahead and turn over the meeting to Ms. Binda.
Thank you.
Evening.
Thank you, everybody, for joining tonight. So we have a pretty long agenda for tonight, so bear with me. So we'll go through it. Full day kindergarten discussion, Council Rock High School South, tennis and basketball court replacement credit change order, South Auditorium lighting replacement schedule modification change order, so Finestone additions and renovations, project classroom furniture, wood, gym and other floor maintenance service bid, elevator and wheelchair lift preventative maintenance service bid, fire alarm service bid, integrated pest management bid, boiler maintenance bid, the desert air preventative maintenance bid, and the fire extinguisher maintenance bid. So first we'll start off with the full day kindergarten discussion. So last week and in the beginning of this week, we had meetings with all 10 elementary school principals. Nicole, Tony, and I were able to meet with all 10 of them to start the discussion about the impact of facilities of potential full-day kindergarten. So some of the space requirements, we were reviewing the additional classrooms available, cafeteria, lunch schedules, specials, because as you know, the current kindergarten only has 2 specials, and first to 6th grade has 5. So just starting the discussion to see if we actually have room in our schools to accommodate this. And then one of the things that really came up were kindergarten bathrooms. PDE does not require bathrooms in kindergarten classrooms. It is a decision made independently by districts. I know every district is slightly different, so that's one thing that we do coming up need to discuss. And then other requirements, that could be classroom furniture, classroom supplies. That list is going to continue to grow as we continue these discussions. So one item that we were discussing, again, was the availability of classrooms. So you'll see up here, this is slightly different than the one that Nicole was able to present 2 weeks ago. We did find that we needed to increase the number of classrooms at, thank you, I saw Finestone by 1. Oh yeah, it does say there. So Finestone has historically had 4 sections of each grade level. So our projection is now reflecting this. The good thing about Sol Finestone is, as you guys know, we have the additional classrooms now, so that is not a problem. So we will continue to evaluate and upgrade this chart as we go through all of these discussions and make modifications as we need. I'm pausing here for any questions because my next slide is on to a different topic.
Okay, so I think it was Mr. Roosevelt and then Mr. Hickey. Okay.
Is this reflecting the current additional classrooms in Sol Finestone once all construction is over? Same question for Richboro Elementary.
Yes.
So we've just added 10 new classrooms to Richboro Elementary, and this is indicating if we're going to do full day kindergarten, we need 1 more?
No, I'm sorry. This is indicating how many more classrooms. So if a school has currently one, like if you look at Churchville,
Right,
I believe Churchville has one kindergarten classroom.
Yeah.
Actually, we'll go to Richboro because I know for sure what they have. Richboro right now has one kindergarten classroom. They have one section of AM and one section of PM.
Yeah.
So if you look up here, Richboro shows one additional classroom. That just means that on top of what they already have, they need one more. So we can fit that one classroom in Richboro. So this does not indicate that we need to build any more classrooms. This is just what we're projecting within the district
all
right
right.
now.
So once again, this is not factoring in then the additional classrooms that will become online once Richboro addition will be completed. In other words, we'll have 9 free because one of them theoretically could go to full-day kindergarten.
You won't have 9 free because there are some, I know from talking to Dr. Jordan, she had some stuff doubled up. So,
I'm
but
sure she did, but the point remains, we're gonna have 10 new classrooms coming online to
Yes.
Richboro. Is this Richboro saying it needs 1 classroom, factoring in those additional 10 lines or not?
it's independent of each other. This is not a chart that shows that we need to build 17 additional classrooms. This is simply saying on top of the current number of kindergarten classrooms, we need to find room for 17.
Can I try?
Yeah.
Of those 10 new classrooms, we need space to put an additional kindergarten, so you would have a net of 9 before you move other programs into those rooms.
Okay, same thing for South Limestone.
Correct.
But for other schools, like Wrightstown, for example, or Hillcrest that just finished, you've got to figure out where this other classroom is going to come
So
from.
that's been part of our discussions. So for Hillcrest, Champions uses one of the classrooms that would be designated planning-wise as a kindergarten classroom. But since they only have one kindergarten classroom right now, Champions uses that room. So Champions then wouldn't be needed anymore per se.
Okay,
It might be changed, whatever we decide to do with the program. But that Champions classroom would then be turned into a kindergarten classroom.
okay. And just continuing on this theme for a minute. So there's most of these, it looks like if you do the math between what they need and what they have, is roughly 3 or 4 classrooms for kindergarten in most schools. There's probably some exceptions that might have 2, but for generally on average, we're talking about 3, let's just say,
Yes,
right? And what this chart is indicating is the total we need 17. I think the last time we looked at this, there was 16.
yes.
So it looks like another one has been added.
Soul Feinstone was the one, because historically it's had 4 sections.
Okay,
When Nicole presented it, it only had 3
3,
sections.
okay, so
So
that's
we
fixed.
upped it to 4 just so we know that we
Okay.
anticipate there's going to be 4 sections there.
So are we displacing any other norms from 1st through 6th grades? Or, I mean, how does this work from a facility standpoint? Do we need extra classrooms or not?
So we are not able to fully answer that question yet because we still have to work with curriculum to see if we have the number of specials. Like, there's still a lot of stuff up in the air to give a definitive answer. So we're still,
On every school.
yes.
Understandable, but disappointing when I saw this chart on the slide deck. I was hoping that we might have a little bit more indication regarding.
There's still a lot of decisions to be made.
Absolutely. No,
So I don't wanna-
completely understand.
I don't want to say yes, and then we say, okay, well, we're gonna have 5 specials, and that produces 4 more classrooms in one of the schools, and then I have to say, oh, whoa, and I have to walk that back. So
Okay.
I think before I can definitively say yes or no, we have to keep moving along with the process.
Well, one thing that we do know is that there's no room in Wrightstown to get an extra
Well,
classroom in
that's-
Wrightstown.
So the Rice Elementary, I'm going to continue assuming that we're gonna continue with capping.
Okay,
So with that assumption, we're able to keep moving forward with Wrightstown.
but theoretically, we've got more classrooms coming online at neighboring Soul Finestone, and a little bit farther, we've got Richboro Elementary. So is this chart possibly considering routing kids to either of those? Or, I mean, what's sort of the thought?
I don't know that I'm the person to
All right, that's fair enough.
answer that.
Okay, all right, I get it. Thank you.
Mr. Hickey?
Your last point was mine, about Wrightstown. And you're not the person to answer that. You know, and obviously it hasn't even been considered in your discussion. My question was gonna be is, you know, people are gonna look at that and say, oh, wow, okay, we've got 10 new classrooms coming on at Richboro, we've got 5 new classrooms coming on at Wrightstown, or at Soul Finestone. This is great. We got room, which we haven't even really talked about. But when you say we have room, it means what's happening to those current, I look at Wrightstown and Holland in particular that are overflowing. In order to accomplish this from a facility standpoint, there's gonna, once again, as I said, be a major redistricting, but like I said, that's above your,
That's a word that will not come out of my mouth.
no, but it has to come out of some, you know, as we look at this, the way to make this even conceivably work is you're gonna have to move kids, and chances are, those kids that are being moved are gonna be Wrightstown kids that are either gonna go, they're gonna move to Soul Finestone most likely, or possibly back into Richboro. And then from the other end of the district, you're probably gonna have all the people from Holland pushing up. So, I mean, they're, like I said, I'm waiting to see what the total actual space is, but there's a lot of moving parts. But like I said, Mr. Roosevelt took my concern about the Wrightstown Elementary. And while it appears that there might be ample space, I'm not really sure if that's the case.
Any other, Ms. Oseki?
Yeah, just a question, this might be more for Mrs. Crawford. I was just wondering, as we look at this that shows first grade enrollment and we're going based on these numbers, are the ratios the same in kindergarten and first grade? Like we're going based on the assumption that they are, is that fair?
In terms of the guidelines for the, yes.
Yeah.
25.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Tate?
I'm not sure precisely who to address this to, whether Ms. Crawford or Dr. Senko. Theoretically, could some students go to full-day kindergarten in elementary school X and then start the remainder of their school career in school Y?
They could. As Jess said, there are a lot of variables here. One that she mentioned is the number of specials that we land on for full-day kindergarten. The other, right now, we have in several of our elementary schools, the Champions program that has an enrichment program that would free up classrooms in those buildings. But similar to when kids are displaced when we cap at any school, they go to a partner school for a year, but for the following year, they're put back into their home school. That's in accordance with our June 1st registration deadline.
Okay.
So that's a long answer to yes, that could be a possibility.
No, that's a very clear answer, thank you. The other question is, are you contemplating redistricting anytime soon?
We have not discussed redistricting. We have discussed our continued conversation with Matt Cropper, who is our demographer. We've continued discussing, asking him to look at some of the pressure points that we know exist, particularly Wrightstown and Holland Elementary. Hillcrest isn't so far away from that. And his projections, our last look at it, he's had a variance of about 1 to 3% in his projections. So we're in conversation with Matt Cropper
Good.
about this, about possibilities of what we can and what we would have to do.
I'll just add, that's what I expected. And I just, we've heard people use the term redistricting a number of times recently. And I just don't want anybody in the community to think that we're planning to do redistricting starting next fall. You know, we're a long way from anything remotely resembling redistricting. Although we clearly are painfully aware of the pressures in some schools.
I mentioned at one of the recent meetings that this program, full day kindergarten, will touch every arm of the district. And you're getting a sense tonight, you get a sense next week when Tony talks to you about finance. And that's why we have to go through this strategically and involve all of the players along the way. So there are things that we are meeting with stakeholders about, we're visiting with neighboring districts, we're working together as our internal team with building principals. And even with all of that, I'm sure there are things that we did not, some bridges we didn't cross yet.
Thank you.
Ms. Polly, and then I think it was Mr. Dava.
Yeah, so I feel like the rest of you, I have so many questions and I'm gonna jump to like conclusions and, get the information as soon as possible, but I think we have to be more patient, is not just give information out there and then people grab the word and then social media, there is a whole war about, oh, look at what they're going to do. So it makes sense to just be patient until the administration is ready to give us a more thorough plan. So everything now is on the table, right? It doesn't mean we're moving one way or the other, it's just evaluating our options and trying to figure out what would be the best way to do things.
Mr. Hidalgo?
Thank you. So to Mr. Tate's point about redistricting and questioning whether or not Mr. or Dr. Sanko had redistricting on the plate, I think it was clear when we redistricted in 2019 that Robert Frazier at the time said we will not redistrict kids twice. And I don't know if that was the board, I just remember that was Robert's edict. That we're not going to redistrict any children twice, which would make most likely the redistricting coming in 2025 at the earliest, 6 years after the first graders or the kindergartners were redistricted into first grade or whatever. So that was always in the back of my mind. Not to say that a spot redistricting to help Wrightstown, if that made sense, would be something I would, evaluate. So that being said, I thought we can't do kindergarten until we can move the kids to make it work. That was my first initial statement. The second thing, with kindergarten now and bathrooms, is there any situations where there's no bathrooms in the?
All of your current kindergarten rooms have bathrooms.
Okay, so I'll just put it out there. If you're going to have a kindergartner, a little baby, walk down the hallway into a public, shows called that, bathroom with the sixth graders and everything else, and God knows how their toiletry is at a kindergarten. That's a tough one to overcome. When they said they couldn't have bathrooms in classrooms, I'm like, oh good, it makes it easier. And then you think for 2 seconds about putting a kindergartner by himself. Some of them, some can be okay, but they're, unsupervised. That's something to look at other schools and see what's going on, but to me, that's a major concern.
And that was part of the conversation that we had with the principals, knowing that kindergarten kids still need help with buttons and zippers and tucking and pulling and all of that kind of stuff, and also shenanigans. And being on the facilities and maintenance side and also overseeing custodial staff, it definitely is a concern. And so that is a point that we're going to have to discuss further. How do we put bathrooms? Can we put bathrooms? Are we capable of doing that in some of our buildings? As most of you guys know, our hallways most of the buildings are slab on grade, and we have terrazzo in a large percentage of our schools. Putting bathrooms in, that means I'm potentially pulling up terrazzo floors and knocking walls down and major construction. So that's all part of discussions that need to happen. But in my opinion, the major part of this is going to be curriculum discussion. Facilities, and my viewpoint of facilities is that we're here to support curriculum, we're here to support kids. So the number one thing is always curriculum, and then we follow in to make that happen. So as soon as we start making more decisions with curriculum, that's when we start discussing the bathrooms, the space, the number of classrooms, the specials, and how we're gonna make this all work. So to your point, bathrooms is gonna be a big discussion, and it is a district decision. And you're absolutely right with all of the challenges that the little ones have.
I'm just worried about the kids, not about anything else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions? I think I'll just follow up with this, and Ms. Binda, correct me. I've obviously had a lot of questions. I appreciate all the curiosity and questions from the board members. I know I just wanted to state to you all and to the community that this is our first facilities meeting to address full-day kindergarten. Like next week we'll have finance, and it's just bit by bit, piece by piece. When we talked about this at the beginning, it was gonna be a full exploration, which we appreciate the administration doing. And just like Dr. Sanko said that, he said that full-day kindergarten is gonna touch every arm. And I know for me, I personally appreciate the fact that we're having this opportunity to kind of see the process along the way, however big it is and as we move along. I think it's a lot about patience and wait time, because I had almost all the same questions that you all did, and Jess is nodding her head at the pre-meeting, and probably more. So moving forward, I think it's just about, we discover more, we have great discussion as we move along and see what happens. At the end of the day, we're gonna make the best decision for our district and students. And this slide currently up with the full day kindergarten discussion, I had a lot of questions about it too, and I think the best way to summarize it for me, it's kind of a snapshot of where we are right now if our first graders were kindergartners. And that it doesn't really evaluate the rooms that are currently being used or how it would be reevaluated to be used for grade levels as they are every school year, if that makes sense. Did I do an okay job? Ms. Crawford?
If you don't mind, I can jump in and just kind of build upon that. As we were going around to the 10 elementary schools in the last week and a half, just to make everyone aware that the principals have done an outstanding job of starting to get their wheels turning too. So I think that's worth mentioning as well, that if we were to start this tomorrow, obviously that's a different story because there's a lot of puzzle pieces that have to be put in place. But I was really impressed that when we sat down to talk with them, they were starting to work through in their minds, here are some ideas, here are some possible obstacles, here are some solutions. And we have an upcoming principals meeting next week where we continue the conversation. So I do want to share that they're very much invested and will be in this process moving forward. As everyone has stated tonight, we're at the very beginning stages of this, but I was happy with the outcome of those meetings. They're informed of what we're talking about and certainly providing their input into ways that we can help accommodate and scenarios that we need to discuss moving forward. Because there are a lot of different ways this can play out. So just so everyone's aware, they're definitely a critical piece in this when we're looking at facilities. They know their buildings best.
Oh, without doubt.
They're there all day with the students, they know the needs, and so it'll be a big part of this, conversation moving forward related to room usage.
And to kind of add what Nicole said, our first meetings was with Bob Francis, who does the district-wide scheduling. On the facility side, that's something that I'm not experienced with because I don't schedule classes. And he does all of the buildings. So just having his brain for 15, 20 minutes, being able to pick his brain and just seeing what his thought process was, it was extremely helpful. And then, just going over to all the other schools, just hearing the things that on the facility side, what the principals are worried about. It's refreshing to hear that they are thinking about this and that they are coming up with great discussion points, and great thought process of different potential hurdles that their school might overcome, and then also talking to them, like the lunch periods, we were talking about how to fit kids into lunches, and me understanding how their lunches work right now. So it was actually way more rewarding than I even anticipated, meeting with all of them and just hearing how their days operate. So it was a great meeting.
Great, thank you. Mr. Rosenthal?
Just a couple more questions. And some of these may be rhetorical or for future consideration. Some of them may be currently contemplated. If we're having an upcoming finance meeting and Tony's going to be giving us some degree of a price tag for this, but we don't have the number of classrooms that may or may not be needed in each school, is that number going to be complete, or will we have it by that meeting so that it will be?
It will not be complete, the number will not be complete.
Okay.
There's more work to be done on specials, and and obviously we don't have a clue at this point how much we're gonna pay for furniture,
Right.
hubbies and stuff like that. But my presentation is more about the plan to finance it overall.
Okay.
And that'll be more clear next week when we talk about it, but it's more about how we can go about financing.
And you can do that without having an understanding of whether we need to do more additions or not?
Again, it's more about the mechanics of it. There's different funding streams that I would like, that I'm gonna recommend
Okay.
apply to different things.
Okay.
So,
I don't want you to spill the beans early.
no, I'm not trying to, I'm just saying, just for example, if we had to do, serious construction, that would not come out of the general fund, that would be more related to, capital projects, capital reserve money. If we had to do, teachers obviously are something that, as far as a target timeline and then, tax increases to pay for that, if that's what we, if that's what you want to do. And then additional, there's another way that we can fund, just a spoiler alert, we have the educational initiative money, which I would definitely quantify this as an educational initiative. We do have that money, and that funding will be available for things that are one-time costs. I would not apply that to teachers or anything like that, but furniture, smaller construction and equipment costs would definitely come from that. So that's, I gave you basically my presentation.
I mean,
Are we canceling the meeting?
So just some other thoughts, I think, with this as we're evaluating specials. Do we also need to evaluate the cafeteria, the lunchrooms? As when we're thinking about plumbing and ripping up floors and we're thinking about potential additions, there's also, with that, we've got the nursing staff quarters and increasing of that as well. Maybe more maintenance for more supplies. And then if you don't include bathrooms for some of these, some of the kindergarten classrooms are gonna have bathrooms and some aren't. That becomes a parity issue of how do we figure out which kid goes in which kindergarten classroom and which doesn't.
A bug in my office.
No, yeah.
Principal offices.
Yeah. So, I'm looking forward to when we can get to something. I know it's never gonna be complete, and I know that we could get into analysis paralysis, but we need to get somewhere along the line in facilities so that finance has a better idea about where we're gonna be with a dollar sign, so that this community and this body as a board can look at the details of what this educational initiative or investment is gonna look like.
100% agree.
Yeah, to Mr. Tate's point, does it make sense? Are we gonna have an upcoming meeting about these conversations and both facilities and finance again, where we're gonna get closer to that? Or does the administration need more time to get to a more complete understanding?
Yes to both.
Okay.
Yes to both. And we will continue talking about this at the Education Committee
Okay.
meetings. You will hear, as Tony just said, you'll hear assumptions being made on essentially entry-level teachers and a dollar figure with that. As it relates to the regular homeroom classroom kindergarten teacher. We have everything you just said, or things we've spoken about and we have to get answers to.
Great.
But I would like to add, we have also been talking about and have to get to dollar amounts around special education teachers, special education teacher assistants, cafeteria assistants, recess monitors.
Yeah.
So again, we're trying to look at this from every angle so that we can give the board and the community our best shot at space, money, and how we employ it, if that's where the board decides to go.
Yeah, is this an April or a May thing, or is this June, or?
I don't want to put a timeline on it yet because we have a lot of discussions
it's a lot.
with curriculum to talk about that's really going to feed into that.
It's a lot.
One thing that wasn't on the list is playgrounds.
Yeah.
Because you figure last year we started talking about playgrounds. The parameters of that decision has now potentially changed.
Right.
So that's another thing that we're going to have to talk about that could potentially go into to Tony's list. So yeah, I don't want to commit to a time frame because as a whole entire district, there's a lot of decisions that need to be made prior to me saying thumbs up or thumbs down. Do we need additions? Do we need additional classrooms? Do we need this? Do we need that? Do we need a whole new building? And I'm extremely exaggerating, so please don't anyone think that I'm saying we need a new building for anything. Yeah, no, please, that was an exaggeration. So there's,
But we might.
what'd you say?
But we might.
Well, I'm hoping not. But yeah, so there is a lot of discussion to continue with this. And you'll see continually that for every meeting moving forward, when you see my last slide for upcoming agenda items, it says full day kindergarten ongoing discussion. That's not going to get deleted for quite some time. So it's going to be continuing conversations and getting input from all of you to see what direction we want to go.
I mean, you also have transportation. We'll probably need additional routes, additional buses, maybe additional transportation circle back. So to your point, there's a lot of work. It does touch all the arms of the district, and thanks for giving us a beginning glimpse of that. Looking forward to when we can get more, 90% substantial completion.
Great. Thank you. Like I just had stated, I think this is just one little piece, and I know in the next education committee, we talked about a timeline coming along. Next week is our finance. A big portion of the questions was regarding finance, so we can all expect to get a little more, another piece of that puzzle. So for the sake of, unless there's something specific or new for this kindergarten's topic, we'd like to move on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next is the South Tennis and Basketball Court Replacement Credit Change Order. So I do want to kind of go over a little bit of the history because I know many of you guys weren't here when this was voted on. So this was a summer project from last year. So my understanding is that this project started, or the idea of this project started back when South received their turf field. This was originally part of that project. And due to budget constraints at that time, this portion of the project was eliminated. The budget at that time was $1.5 million, and the awarded project was $1,820,000. Two things to factor in the price change. Number one, inflation. Things are way more expensive than they were back in 2020. The other thing is the scope of work changed a lot. So we discovered through more investigation that these
courts were created, they were cracking, and we had 2 and 3 inch cracks on these courts that were diverting the balls for the tennis courts in different directions. So these courts were practically unplayable for this past, well, they were unplayable for this past fall for girls tennis season, but they weren't going to be able to be used for any more tennis matches. So through this more investigation, we put a ton of under drainage throughout all of the courts and the basketball courts. So the price of this project and scope of this project did increase a lot. And I do recognize that we did spend a lot of money on these courts, but I also want to highlight that this is a sport that we have in our district. We have both boys and girls tennis, and if I remember correctly, we actually had some kids going to states, if not 1 or 2 winning states.
They won states. A girl with the Council Rock South, they won states.
So, in my opinion, money well spent. And, through discussions this time last year for this project, I think we all agreed that this was definitely a project that needed to be completed. One of the things that we decided to do to save money was we did keep the exterior fencing. The exterior fencing was in good shape. We were able to take off the ends so that we moved through during construction on the ends and then patch the ends back in. And that did save a significant amount of money. We did, and I don't have it on the top of my head, but we did have a bid alternate for that, and we chose not to accept that because it was a pretty high expense. So that being said, the courts are installed. They're installed properly. The leveling, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm drawing a blank on the word. The requirements for the leveling across the courts is within tolerance. Before the court company could come in and pour the top layer of the basketball and tennis courts, there was a check done on that because they weren't going to install that final layer without having that leveling, because they don't want us to come back to them and say, hey, you've got puddles or you've got sloping issues or whatever it may be. So the leveling was all checked. And we also had oversight over it. In fact, Dewey brought in someone just for our summer project. So there was somebody there through the summer projects, the entire length of the summer dedicated just to those projects. So with this, we are finally done. There was some landscaping issues that we had to take care of, some seating and that kind of stuff. So we do have the final credit change order in the amount of $82,222.93. And by signing off on this change order, we're going to close the project out and return the $82,000 some odd dollars to the district.
Questions, Mr. Hickey?
Just a comment, I guess. I remember being a part of this discussion. As a matter of fact, I think, Mr. Tate, you were weren't you the facilities chair at the time, right? So, I mean, you were all, we were all on board with this, as a group. I mean, it sounds like an expensive price tag, really, $2 million for tennis courts. But, like I said, the way that it was presented to us and through Mr. Tate and his leadership at the time this was a necessary evil that we needed to do.
Yeah.
The other thing that was considered was that this was a lawsuit waiting to happen.
Yes.
That they were in such dire straits that someone was going to get hurt. That's how bad it was.
And they were patched previously, so there's a strip, it's almost like a tape type material that was put over these cracks at one time, and the cracks just continued to grow, so that even was a failure there.
Right, so I mean, this isn't a new item that just came up. This is an item that was from before, taken for various reasons, and like I said, at the time, this con wasn't even, you weren't even the facilities chair at the time, it was Mr. Tate, and, half of the board that was here, we approved it and understood, what we were doing.
Yeah, and like you said, the project originated from, I believe, 2019, 2020, when they did the turf. The money wasn't there at the time.
It was actually before our time.
Yeah, but it was definitely, it was needed back then, so you can tell how much it was needed now.
Mr. Roosevelt?
Yeah, just to sort of tack on to this. I remember those courts, and just for everybody's understanding, especially those that aren't here or haven't been to these tennis courts / basketball courts, it's kind of on a hill and it's sort of terraced. And you've got a lot of area that is not allowing water to permeate through. And you've got a lot of water that's being passed from one to the other and running across it. And as you know, Jess, water is one of the biggest battles to fight in buildings and facilities. And that's what's creating these cracks, keeping water out.
Yes.
And when the water gets in, then you have freeze and thaw, and you have these huge cracks that open. It was unsafe, and drainage is very expensive.
Yes.
So to do it right, I think we understood that a better approach than a Band-Aid need to be done. It is unfortunate that this is expensive and that it got more expensive, but it sounds like we got it done right, and we don't have those lawsuit issues. We have an appropriate court for our tennis teams and our basketball teams that go out there, and it's expensive and it's a commitment. So I hope that we don't have to look at any sort of crazy repairs that come up connected to this moving forward.
And we do kind of build on you, we do rent these areas out. And the basketball courts are used for basketball camps during the summertime, whether it's an outside group holding a camp or our own coaches holding their camps. And one thing that we did do was the far two tennis courts, we put 2 pickleball courts in. And I mean, we all know how huge pickleball is. I mean, if you just go to Dick's Sporting Goods, they have an entire section of pickleball now. So, I mean, we made sure that we included that kind of stuff to gain, not that it's gonna make up the, $1.8 million, but we've had that thought process in the back of our head too, that, let's make it so gym class can use it for pickleball, and we can also rent it out.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mr. Tate, and then, so, Mr. Tate, Mr. Tate.
So when did they finish this upgrade, or?
I wanna say October?
October of last year?
Yes.
Okay.
So we made sure that we had a little bit of trim work to do, and some landscaping stuff. And then by the time we were able to close everything out, and Dewey got me the credit change order, everything's been closed out.
Okay. So has anybody gone, do we inspect them like at the end of the winter, which is when they would be?
Oh, yeah, I was on them on Monday because spring sports started. We had a little bit of mud that we needed to clean up, make sure all the nets were up properly, and from all the rain, we had just some mud to clean up to do on the actual courts. So yeah, I was there as late as Monday.
Great. Perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So if I recall correctly, the tennis season is in the spring, right?
Girls is in the fall, boys is in the spring.
What did the girls do during the fall season?
They used North's court. So we knew that because there's a cure time, and we had a decent amount of rain this summer.
Right.
So, and there's a cure time by the time you put the asphalt down. I don't remember how long, I think it was 30 days, but it could have been 45. But there was a cure time between the asphalt had to set and cure before we could put the top layer on. So we had a delay with that. So they did use the North, as soon as we called up North's athletic directors and said, hey, we're running into some issues here. We knew middle of August. They said, no problem, let's bring the kids over, and the 2 athletic directors worked together seamlessly to make that work. So it's great having 2 high school facilities that they can, commingle at.
Yeah, well, as somebody who plays tennis, I can tell you that poor courts are just intolerable. I mean, talking about cracks make it unplayable, it's not fair to competitors. So refresh my memory, please. My recollection is one of the reasons we didn't do this project when we did the turf field itself was because the engineers discovered that, as Mr. Roosevelt was talking about, there was a serious drainage issue in that area, which also impacted the price tag. And you wouldn't know why we put off the project, that's not what I'm saying. But am I correct in that the price tag was driven much higher than normal because of the drainage issue and the need to regrade a very big area?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
I imagine also soil stabilization.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah, it was, and that's why the courts were in such bad condition.
yeah, so
Because the
they,
ground was shifting and.
they were pulling apart. So if you think of there's a hill and then there's the court and then there's a hill back down and below is the freshman softball.
Right.
The water was just pulling the court away from the hill. And that's why we were getting those gaps, and it was just consistently getting worse. I mean, at one point there was stabilization efforts made, but they were just being pulled off. So the drainage that we put in, the design initiative or design goal was to pull that water and pull it from the top of the hill and migrate it underneath the court so that it could drain where we wanted it to drain. It probably doesn't look like it right now because of all the rain we've got this week, but it's drying out or pulling water away from the freshman softball field. So the goal with that is to help that whole field so that the kids can play on that a lot quicker. And then, you guys all know we're bidding out the drainage for the varsity field. So hopefully the combination of the tennis and basketball court drainage and the varsity softball will just make those fields actually usable again.
Great, yeah, so this was not a matter of paving sports, it was a matter of a big drainage and regrading before the repaving could be done. Or
Yeah,
essentially building brand new courts.
Yeah, I mean, we have a set of engineered drawings here that if it was just recoding courts, we would have just hired someone off of CoStars and said, can you please recode it?
Right.
And it would not have come in at $1.8 million.
Right.
So yeah,
Okay.
there's a tremendous amount of work that went underneath these courts that you just can't see.
Great, okay, makes sense.
Ms. Warner, and then
Is there a
Ms. Adolfo.
warranty?
There is a year warranty for workmanship, so yes. That's
From October, or, because you said they were just back here, right?
No, they weren't back. October was when we completed the project, so from October. It was B. Blair that did the project. They are a phenomenal company. I know we've had some issues that they did, not related to the work they did, but stuff that we needed help with, and they've come back. We had some discussion about the color of the courts, making sure they were the right colors, and they have responded tremendously. So, if we do need them to come back to look at something, we don't anticipate that being an issue. They're also on a couple of other renovation projects, and I know they're at Richboro. So they've been a good partner with us.
Mr. Hidalgo?
Thank you. Yeah, well, I'll just reminisce about when we were on the board and the pandemic was coming. So there was a whole thing where we didn't do a lot of projects.
Mhm.
And that turf field was kind of a surprise. I always balked at the price of the basketball courts and tennis courts and thought it was insane. And I questioned it a lot, and I was told, it's the grading, it's the drainage, there's problems. Me, I fix everything. I think we could have, there's ways to have maintained it, but the project was to go through. We did have a couple good years that we could actually really invest in our summer projects. A couple good years of surplus gave me the confidence to say, all right, and we got to focus on these things that are being recommended. So it's a little bit of a thing for me to swallow. And then I'm hearing something, some people are saying online, they're saying that they're not happy with the quality of the courts. There's puddling, the fencing that was put back has got a gap. and they're complaining of the pathways that were put in, and they must know something, so there's coal patch and not really whatever. But they're suspecting that the quality is, I didn't look at it, and I know you said you were just out there, but if there's people complaining about that, are you guys aware of that there's a complaints out there on social media or whatever?
I'm aware.
Okay,
Um,
we should address it.
I would invite anybody that would like to walk through to come out and walk through. I don't believe that there's a quality issue. I think the contractor did a very great job. We actually added in a little bit more paving to help with the transition between the courts so the kids weren't walking through mud as they transitioned through. The fencing is the fencing, we didn't change the fencing, we had a significant cost savings to keep the fencing. I don't believe that there's an issue with the fencing, but if someone would like to walk through with me, phone number is 215-944-1000. I mean, I encourage them to come. I'm available.
So the fencing was the gap in the fencing was there before?
And I don't believe that the gap in the fencing is an issue.
Okay. That sounds that. They can come, check it out.
Ms. Collin?
It may be best, instead of walking the courts, to talk to the players and the coaches, because the court may look fine, but when you try to play, maybe the ball doesn't bounce the right way, and they are not gonna know unless, they try it out.
So I don't believe that they've been actually able to practice on the court this week just because of the weather. So through conversations, if there is an issue with any of the courts, any projects that we do once they start using it, that's when we would come in and obviously make repairs as needed. So if, we'll be working with both the players, the coach, the athletic director to receive any feedback that they have.
So what kind of, before I say my other question, what kind of flooring is that on the court? You can get back to me with it.
Yeah, I don't remember what the brand is. We met with the guy out there, but it's a material for tennis courts.
Right. It's different for outdoor tennis courts.
Yes. It's the same type of material. It's the same, I believe it's the same brand it might not be the same brand that we use at North, but it's a coating and then there's a sand mix in it. And the people that actually did it do professional courts as well.
Sure.
So and I can let you know what the actual brand is. I don't remember what it's off the top of my head.
Yeah, so the other point I want to make is that this was approved by the previous board, and right now we're just getting money back, which is great, because we have a credit. And I'm in favor, my whole family plays tennis, we love tennis, we love all the sports, and we want to encourage that. But at the same time, we have to be mindful of how much money we spend there versus educational initiatives. Because we have a discussion coming up for how much would full day kindergarten cost, or like maybe other things we want to do. So let's keep that in mind, because we cannot I think education is a little higher priority, although we do want to offer all kind of other.
For me, I would challenge that, because we do have sports teams, and in my opinion, that's part of the education. And so participating on those courts,
Right.
I mean, I don't think that we frivolously spent on these courts. I mean, we do have.
I mean, a lot of
boys and
people
girls.
argue that spending $2 million in that was a big expense. So
Should we
I'm
not
not
have-
arguing against that, Jess. I agree with you. I'm just saying, let's be mindful of the money we spend, where it goes,
Always.
and if it's the best way to spend the money.
Always. And the reason why we did the drainage is because we didn't want to be in the same position in another 5 years.
Right.
So as a spender of taxpayer money, hard-earned taxpayer money, we always need to make sure that we are doing the best project, and keeping that in mind, that we're not spending things frivolously.
If we didn't do this project, we'd have to either move that team to North, or they wouldn't have those teams at South, which means then you wouldn't have them at North either, because of the parity, you need parity across both schools. But in my opinion, it was needed for the education of our kids. I mean, sports is part of their education.
I am really surprised that these kids were able to go to the nationals playing in these courts. I mean, imagine what they would have done if they had like the perfect courts that they're gonna have now, so.
Well, they were just practicing, right? You didn't do
Yeah,
it,
they
there was no competition.
No, there hasn't been any competition on the new courts yet. The boys,
No, the old courts.
there was no,
There was no
There were
competition.
games in the old courts.
there were games the previous season, yeah, there were, and I don't know how, honestly, if I was a coach from another team, I'd be refusing to play there because it was awful.
Maybe that was the advantage, right? Like, the kids from South knew how the ball was gonna bounce,
There you go.
and then
Yeah, they
opponents
had
didn't
an
know.
advantage.
Play to the correct.
All right, I think sorry.
Just-
Get back to the meeting, Mr. Hickey.
Thanks. Just a quick question. It just is something that Joe said and what happened. Has anybody contacted you in reference to the quality of the work that was performed on these courts?
No, period.
Okay, because I haven't received any. You know, and it's so easy, like, that people get behind, Joe, when you talk about social media, I'm not a big social media person, but people get behind their computers or whatever, and they just start ripping. You know what, to which you said, it was a great point, you know what, if you have a problem, call me, let's walk it, show me where the issue is. But I haven't gotten any complaints, you haven't gotten any complaints, and it's kind of unfair to you, you weren't even a part of this when this all started. The only, if you want to blame anybody for spending $20 million or $2 million on this court, you can, sorry, you can look at Mr. Tate, who was the facilities chair at the time when we approved it, Ms. Polly, myself, and Mr. Roosevelt, who voted 9-0 to proceed with this work. Oh, sorry, Joe, I forgot Mr. Hidalgo. But, you know, it's like a lot of things, you know, you listen to the chatter behind the scenes, and I always say, you know what, if you have a problem or a question or a comment or anything, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, they know how to reach us. It takes one little email or one little phone call. So like I said, you know, it's water under the bridge now. We did it for whatever reason. Hopefully this works. Hopefully we won't have to visit it again and everything will work fine. If we made a mistake, so be it. You know who the people who are that are responsible, but it is not you. It's myself, Mr. Hidalgo, Mr. Roosevelt, Mr. Tate, and Ms. Powell.
Well, and to be honest with you, if we get 10 years down the road and we have to be back talking about tennis courts, I'd be the first one to stand up and say, we didn't do enough, we didn't do this, we didn't do that. I mean, we attempted the best that we could to do what was right for these tennis courts and for the athletes that use it.
And I agree fully with your statement that athletics is a part. If all you do is go to school and go home every day, school stinks. Athletics is a huge part of what we do as a district in educating our kids.
Athletics is why I went to school every day and didn't mess around, so it's
Keeps kids out of trouble.
kept me out of trouble.
Okay, I just had one quick question.
Yes.
A lot of answers, thank you, Jess, for that. I guess since we just had this project completed in October of 2023 this year, and they will get full use of it in the spring season, once the rain dries off, what do you expect to be like the longevity or use of this tennis court before we're having to do any major renovations or, you know?
Oh, do
you have any idea?
That is a very difficult question to answer. I don't know the life expectancy of the surface. I would suspect that the surface would have to be recoated before we actually have to do this work again.
Right.
But I can find out what the life expectancy of a coating is.
Right. I mean, I guess it wouldn't be that substantial amount of work, because it seems like the majority of that work was the ground and soil and drainage underneath. So now it seems like a maintenance of the coating. But it would be just nice to know, just like when you get your driveway sealed or you get a new roof, you have some sort of years of life on it, right?
I don't know that off the top of my head. That's an excellent question. I'll find out.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions or comments regarding the tennis courts and basketball courts? right. Next.
Okay, next, I just want to start off that there is no cost associated with this change. This is strictly for contract modification. So when I change the contract, I do have to come to you guys to ask for approval. So this is to modify the schedule for this South Auditorium lighting replacement. The original start date was September 1st, 2023, and the original substantial completion date was November 20th, 2023. The actual start date was December 18th, 2023, and the updated substantial completion date is May 1st, 2024. I understand that the original start and substantial completion duration is shorter than the actual start and updated substantial completion. So the original was part of the original contract. Once we got the bids in, got the contractor on board and discussed the schedule, we realized that we did need additional time, mainly for the amount of scaffolding. If anybody would like to tour that right now, the entire auditorium is full of scaffolding from the floor to the ceiling, wall to wall, left and right, wall to wall, front to back. So this amount of scaffolding to put up was roughly 3 to 4 weeks just to put the scaffolding up. Taking it down's a little quicker, it's 2 to 3 weeks to take it down. So that did extend the schedule. And we also pushed the start date back for 2 reasons: delivery of material and adjustment to accommodate the high school's schedule. So they were able to have all of their winter December events in there. And then they'll also be able to have all of their May and June events in there. So that was a huge win for the seniors there. And then also a huge win for both the theater and orchestra and choral and the performing arts group as a whole. So again, this is just a contract change. There's no money associated with this. It's just an approval that we changed the contract for document reasons.
And they feel confident they'll get done by May 1st.
Yes. Period.
Questions? Mr. Hickey?
This is the one that we were talking about for years and we couldn't get anybody to do this, correct?
Correct.
And I believe with this case, as the dollar figure comes up for this, I believe this was originally budgeted at like $750,000.
Or 800.
And, yeah, and we got nothing for years. And now I believe the budget is somewhere, once again, approaching that $2 million mark.
I believe it's over 2 million. I believe it's 2.4, 2.5.
So just to give, to those new board members who we're going to hear, now we're spending $2 million to fix up auditoriums, but for some history here, we tried to get this done years ago and had no takers, and it was originally budgeted by Mr. Taylor, I believe, at $750,000, and there was absolutely no takers, and even he had said at the time that the situation there was not very good for what's supposed to be a first-class auditorium in a first-class district.
So right now, we have TE Construction, who is the main contractor, and Starlight, who's doing all the theatrical lighting and all the programming. Starlight is both TE and Starlight are first-class contractors. Starlight has done work in New York City. When you go to the Phillies Stadium and they hit a home run and that bell rings, that's Starlight. They've worked on Broad Street in Philadelphia, so we have 2 very great contractors. And I'm 100% confident that this is money well spent for the performing arts groups. And you'll actually have lighting when you sit in the seats from the. Yeah, it was terrible in there.
Mr. Tate?
And this is the low bidder. These are the low bidders.
He's the only bidder. So yes.
Yes, they are the lowest, but-
And the highest.
And the highest.
and the highest, that's right.
They were the lowest,
Yeah.
and I'm sticking to that.
Any other questions or comments? I know I'm looking forward to seeing when it's done. I did, with a couple of the board members, we viewed it, and yes, the scaffolding is like a work of art. I mean, it is, like, if you think of the toothpick construction
Yes.
with all the angles and triangles, it is amazing. So it's exciting, and I know Mr. Raddick and the rest of the team and staff, school and students are excited when it will be completed, so I'm looking forward to seeing it. Thank
And
you.
we have been hand in hand with the performing arts teachers. In fact, we just talked about stage flooring. So they've definitely been involved, and they are ecstatic about the program. And we also were able to salvage some old lights and components of those lights for North. So we got the one teacher down, and his name is, forgive me, his name is escaping me, but he was able to come down and take a couple components so that we could recycle some of the stuff up to North. So it's been a great experience with this project, and we definitely look forward to the spring performances. Great.
Thank you.
Next is Soul Finestone Additions and Renovations Project, classroom furniture. We're gonna purchase the furniture for the final phase of construction. Furniture includes 10 classrooms and 1 math specialist room. We are going to continue to use PEMCO, who has supplied the furniture for the district for about the last, I believe, 10 years through PA CoStars. So the amounts for the 10 classrooms and 1 math specialist room is $133,155.60. Cost is included in the project budget, so I'm not asking for an increase in the budget, I'm just asking to spend $133,000.
Questions? Ms. Susan?
So I am just wondering how involved the principal over at Soul Finestone got to be in selecting the furniture.
100%.
Okay, great.
Yep, so
That's
for
what I was hoping you would say.
yes, for these classrooms, it was actually pretty easy because we're just mimicking the other classrooms, so it's the same furniture that's in the other classrooms. One thing that you guys voted on recently was the library furniture. So him and the 2 librarians, the 4 of us sat in a room with, PEMCO was actually on the computer showing us some options. So we have worked hand in hand throughout this renovation to make sure that we are providing what the teachers need and what the principal sees appropriate.
Great.
Thank you. Could you just give like a really brief update? I know there's been a little bit of a
Yes.
timeline change in the library completion date.
Yes, so there has been, and you guys approved a change order recently, so you guys know that there's been some structural issues with this final portion. So right now, the
Library.
thank you, the library, every other part of the building, the library has been delayed slightly. We had to make a change in light fixtures, so we're waiting for the light fixtures to come in. They actually should be in this week. They should have shipped yesterday or today, so hopefully they come in Friday or Monday. Once we get light fixtures in, we'll be able to install the flooring there, and then all of the casework for all the casework for the shelving is scheduled to be delivered by the end of the month, and then we'll have delivery of the books that we've kept at Richborough Middle delivered back to the library, so we anticipate turnover first or second week of April. There was a slight delay, a shout out to John and the librarians because they have just rolled with the punches. They have been tremendous for this project, and it gave us the ability to reduce the schedule for the project a number of months. So we look forward to turning this over. Unfortunately, we're going to miss the book fair. We wanted that to kind of be a grand opening, but we are going to miss that. But the kids will be able to start accessing it mid-April, towards the end of the school year. And then the rest of the project, the remaining 10 classrooms in that specialist room and the new gym is all going to be complete at the end of the summer. So when the kids come back for the 24-25 school year, the building will be substantially complete, and we'll be out of there. So the kids will be able to have all their classrooms back.
Great, thank you so much.
Okay, on to the maintenance bids. So wood gym and other floor maintenance service bid, this is a yearly bid. It has been for a number of years just because of the sheer amount of renovations that we've been doing. I'm hoping this is the last one that'll be a year, and we can start extending it for hopefully 3 years at a time. So we did receive 2 bids on Thursday, February 8th from Molly Classic Sports Flooring and RB Myers Company. Scope of work includes screening, fixing lines and recoating the gym and auditorium wood floors at 12 schools. The work is to be completed during the summer of 2024 and is coordinated with summer activities. This is a 1-year agreement. We recommend that we move forward with Molly Classic Sports Flooring. They are actually the company that completed the work last year. Their name has changed, I believe due to additional owner coming in. And last year's agreement was for $30,000, slightly different scope of work, but so the price is very comparable from last year to this year. There's 3 schools that are not included: Richboro, Hillcrest, because they have the synthetic floor, and Sulphine-Stone, because we're getting a new floor there.
Questions?
Okay. Elevator and wheelchair lift preventative maintenance service bid. We received 4 bids on Tuesday, February 27th. Scope of work includes inspection and preventative maintenance for the district's 23 elevators and wheelchair lifts. This is a 3-year agreement. We recommend that we move forward with Kencor at $97,560. One thing I forgot to mention for the wood flooring, we did have a de-scope meeting. A de-scope meeting is just to review the scope of work to make sure that the contractor is comfortable with the number and all the scope of work is included. So we did do that with the flooring. We also did that with the elevator. Spoke with Kencor. They have everything included. The 3-year agreement back in 2021 was for $88,200. The equipment count has increased. We've added 2 elevators at Sulphine-Stone, some wheelchair lifts at some various schools. And I just want to update everybody on the Richboro Middle School lift, if anybody has any questions on this first.
So,
Yeah, you said this is a 3-year agreement,
This is a
so that's
3-year agreement.
97,000 over the 3 years,
Yes.
not per year.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
questions about the wheelchair lift?
The wheelchair lift for Richboro Middle is in. The contractor does not have their clearances quite yet, so we have prevented them from doing the install. We're working with them to get their clearances. It is a day install, so as soon as they get that, it's going to be installed.
They have to inspect it before it can be functional use.
Yes.
Then what's the timeline, do you think?
About 2 weeks after that to schedule the inspection.
Okay, so 1 day install, 2 weeks approximately,
Yeah.
so then after.
So I'm hoping by the end of this month, Christine, my admin, has been working with the company to get all their clearances, so that we can okay them to move forward. Okay, next is the fire alarm service bid. So we did receive 4 bids on Tuesday, February 27th. The scope of work includes inspection and maintenance of for the district's 19 locations, and this is a 3-year agreement. So you'll see up there that ESS rescinded their bid. They were originally the low bid for the project, and through the de-scope meeting, I determined that they did not have part of the scope of work included. Part of that was cleaning 100% of the heads at all of our districts each year. So after we had the de-scope meeting, they called to let me know that that was not included in their price and that they could not honor their price. So
Went to the next low bid of Fire and Security Technologies at $51,125. And again, that's the total for 3 years. And they have actually done the work. They currently hold our contract. I don't know how long they've been with us, but they've been with us for quite a number of years. So they did confirm that they are able to hold the price at $51,125 and clean all the heads and do all the work that's in the bid and scope of work. And they did have, like I said, they did have the 2021 agreement at $43,500.
Are these done just once a year, or are they checked?
No, they're checked, so we have to do annual, we have to do 3-year, and we have to do 5-year. We also have in there that they have to come out and do work twice a year. So there's ongoing inspections, just cleaning the heads is once a year.
I'm sure there's regulations of what has to be done
Yes,
anyway,
so
so
there's,
they have to follow whatever is
Yes.
mandated.
yeah, absolutely,
Okay,
Within a year.
yes.
are there other questions?
It was just a quick comment. Why was the other bid so far out?
So, the ADT, and I did not talk to ADT, I did talk to Oliver. So ADT, it could be their man hours. When I talked to Oliver, they had a tremendous amount of lifts included. Where Fire and Security Technologies, they have a pole that they utilize in a lot of the locations. And then they bring lifts in as needed if they can't reach those areas. So like the 2 high schools, the 2 middle schools, stuff like that. So that was the big difference with Oliver and Fire and Security Technologies. I will say that you'll see in a couple more slides that Fire and Security Technologies for the fire extinguisher bid is extremely low. When I was speaking to him, the president, Jason, he wants to continue doing work with the district, so he sharpens his pencil as much as he can. He also has great relationships with some of the distributors. So he has historically been low for us. And a great partner. Anytime we have any issues, they're out very quickly. So it's a great contractor that we work with.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions regarding the fire alarm service bid?
Next is integrated pest management. This is, we received 1 bid on Thursday, February 29th. Having 1 bid, this is a difficult contract. Even when I was at Central Bucks, we had low turnout for this. Scope of work includes surveillance, trapping, pesticide application, and pest removal at the district's 19 locations. It's a 3-year contract. Moyer currently has our contract for it's exterminating. For exterminating, there's log books, and anytime there's an issue, they come once a month. So anytime there's an issue, they check the log books, see if there's mice, ants, other rodents, and then if we do have issues, they do respond. They come out within 24 hours. Bees, another district, we had a goose laying an egg, and how we took care of that. So there's all a number of things and weird things, like we had at Richboro Middle, we had an infestation of groundhogs. So this is all covered in that, let me say, the groundhog stuff is not covered in this contract. We do have to pay extra for that, but this is exterminating in all the schools. Again, $56,650. The 2021 agreement was for $39,660 for Moyer. So there is an increase over the 3 years.
Mr. Rosenbaum, and Ms. Stone?
Has Moyer been able to provide any sort of data as far as how much activity they had in the previous contract? And like to what degree? I mean, in other words, have we just had a small rodent problem as opposed to small and big rodent problems, or is like our buildings are so tight that these things can't even get in and
I wish.
no problem, right? So is there any indication on?
So, I don't have indication from them. That's not a specific question that I asked them. But in my experience, we're similar to other districts.
Yeah.
I will say it's impossible to keep everything out.
Sure.
We have kids.
Yeah.
We specialize in kids. And food. And so it's very hard to keep mice and ants.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
mean,
No.
right now I have, and I don't know where they're coming from, I have ants in my kitchen and I can't figure out where they're coming from, it's driving me bonkers. So it's really, really hard. I think we're right in line with other districts. We have had demousing activities in 2 of our schools recently. One was over Christmas break, or winter break, and the other one was, I believe, over President's Day weekend. Moyer performed both of those. I won't elaborate on what demousing means, but you guys get the point.
Yeah.
So I think we're right in line with everybody else.
I'm just curious from a success standpoint.
Well, it depends on who you ask. If you ask, I believe some of the teachers, we don't have huge success in it, but if you ask the facility side, we do have huge success. Because we do, so with this contract, we do a couple different things. One is the trapping and the pesticides and removal. Also, another one part of it is educating and making sure that we're teaming up with ABM, that if we do have an issue, particularly a mouse issue, that we're making sure that we're doing extra cleaning there, that we're paying attention to trash removal, that we're paying attention to kids eating in classrooms, and making sure that food stays in cafeterias, because if it was up to me, we'd eat nowhere else but the cafeteria, and food wouldn't do that, but that doesn't happen. Realistic. But it's a team effort for this, and I think a lot of people don't realize that it's a team effort. You know, you just can't walk in and spray a school and you walk out and it's completely done. Another part is also when Moira walks through, they see issues with thresholds because a mouse could get in the door. Reporting that to maintenance so that we're taking care of stuff like that. Or if there's other holes somewhere, cracks, whatever, that we're making sure that we're taking care of that on the building side as well.
Thank you. I actually have a quick question. The application of the pesticides and the types of pesticides that they're using, I'm assuming that they're applied at a time when students are either not in school, and then if they are on the outside, it's all safe and friendly for students.
Yes, so there is a pesticide applicator license that they have to hold, and I'm not going to say I am an exterminator expert because I am not. That's why we hire them. But they know all of the regulations for the state of Pennsylvania, for the EPA, for the federal government. There's a whole list of regulations that they have to follow and that they are responsible for, and that they carry certifications and insurance and everything for that. And when they do have to apply, so when students are in school, we don't apply that kind of stuff. Over winter break, when we had to do a demousing, we made sure that the kids weren't in the building, and if there is any kind of notifications that need to happen, that all happens as well.
Great, thank you. And yes, realistically, we want food in the cafeteria all the time, or APR, but if you have a 1:30 lunch and you have snacks, I mean, it's inevitable, so.
Yep.
But, so if anyone sees a mouse, they need to call you, right?
No. So if anybody sees a mouse, or they have issues, there's 2 things that they need to do.
Yes.
First is they need to alert the school principal or the,
Building engineer.
or also the building secretary. Then in each school, actually in each building location, we even have one here, there is a Moyer binder. They need to note that in the Moyer binder. That's the easiest way for the communication to go from their mouth to Moyer's ears. Because what happens is when the exterminator comes in, the first thing he does is stop in the main office, check in, and then he gets the book and sees, okay, we've got classroom 101, classroom 104, and classroom 106. They have ant issues. So we're gonna go look to see what we can find there. C-Wing has a mouse issue, so we're gonna go see there. And then just say that the building mechanic has an issue in the boiler room, they're gonna go there. So that is the best way to communicate with Moyer, is putting it in the book. This is a topic that we have monthly at our safety committee meeting, and I cannot, if anybody's listening, please use that book.
Building principal, building engineer, or the principal secretary?
Yes.
Okay.
And or writing it, having the secretary document it in the book.
In the book at the end of the day?
Yep.
Okay. Mrs. Soseki?
Sorry, just how often do they come out?
Once a month. Now, if we do need them to come out more because we have like the demousing projects, they will come out more. And we do have an hourly rate for them, so that if we do have to call them out for anything, we have the hourly rate that goes on top of the 56,000. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next is boiler maintenance service bid, excuse me. We received 2 bids on Thursday, February 29th, from Industrial Boiler and 3B Services. Scope of work includes monthly preventative maintenance inspections for boilers and burners for the district's 41 boilers. This is a 5-year contract. For the new people on the board, one thing that I was talking about this time last year was the sheer quantity. So where it makes sense to extend things to 5 years, we are, so that we don't have to continue talking about these every 3 years. This was one of them. So we recommend, and that is a typo, we recommend industrial, let me try that again. That we award to industrial boilers for $164,285. Again, this is for a 5-year agreement. The 2021 agreement was for $93,750. However, it was a 3-year agreement.
Questions? I think it's great that we were able to get a 5-year. I asked about that with other things, and you're like, I'm working on it.
Where it makes sense, we're trying to increase. So the next one is Desert Air Preventative Maintenance Service bid. This one did not get extended because we're gonna be talking about these 2 Desert Air systems in the next coming years. They're almost at the end of their useful life, or end of their working life, I should say, not even useful, they're past their useful life. So we did receive 1 bid on Tuesday, March 5th. This has historically only received 1 bid from H&H Commercial Services. So the scope of work includes preventative maintenance for the 2 Desert Air units for North Sanatorium, and again, this is a 3-year agreement. We do recommend moving forward with H&H Commercial Services at $103,710. The previous agreement in 2021 was for $82,820. I have one that's not an increase. I have one.
Questions? Mrs. Osaki?
Okay, maybe everybody else knows. Can you enlighten me, what is a natatorium and what is it? Oh, it's a pool.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Very good question, very good question. Yes,
Okay.
it's the pool.
Thank you.
What is,
So this is the pool pump or something?
So these, the Desert Air, it's what warms the air in the pool.
Got it, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, so when you walk into the natatorium, the air in there, that's what warms the air. So the natatorium, the air temperature in there needs to be, and if Brian was here, he'd probably say 90 degrees, but it needs to be roughly, I think it's like 80 degrees. And then the pool water also has to be around 80, 82. Hence the reason why we're putting in the boiler for the pool, which you guys will see again next month. But so this has preventative maintenance for the heaters for the air in the pool.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
okay,
Next is fire extinguishers. I did promise one was lower. Fire extinguisher maintenance bid, we received 3 bids. Yes, wow. Bonkers.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So let me just real quick, we received 3 bids on the 5th.
Scope of work includes annual inspection and preventative maintenance for all district portable fire extinguishers, a 3-year contract. So as I'm talking to Jason, who's the president of the company, I never would do this except for he is ridiculously low. And I told him, you are ridiculously low. My second bid is $23,000. And again, I never would say that to somebody if they were within within a couple pennies of, because I don't want them to know what the next bid is, and I don't want them to throw it in. And he said to me, Jess, I know. And I said, but you're leaving a ton of money on the table here. And I said, how are you performing this? And he reassured me that he had the contract the past 3 years and years and years and years before that. And he reassured me that he does all of the scope of work, which is, an annual inspection and replacement of fire extinguishers. He said that he has an excellent contact, that he gets a phenomenal price on fire extinguishers. So I questioned him on this thoroughly because I did not believe this. And he's performed it consistently for the last number of years. I had a discussion with Tom Crow to make sure that, because I legit could have thrown this out for suspicion and made this non-responsive, but after I talked to him, after I talked to Tom, I have no reason to say that I wouldn't award this to him. So I am going to recommend that we award it to him in the amount of $4,425 for the total for 3 years.
He must have very, no overhead. Sorry.
Saki?
Can we make this a 10-year contract?
I said that to him, and he was like, I'd be open to it.
Okay.
So, so a little bit of history about the company. There was a father that owned it years ago. The son bought it, and he continued with it. And then Jason, the guy Jason, I don't know if he's bought it from the son or if he's transitioning it to him, but again, just like he did with the fire alarm, he loves working for the district. He's familiar with the buildings. It's consistent work for him, so he stood by his number.
In all seriousness, have we ever used one of these fire extinguishers? Do we know that they work? Like, have we ever had occasion to use them? Or same thing goes for the sprinklers, like.
To my knowledge, please, everybody knock on wood. To my knowledge, I do not know that we have had to do that, to use one. So in the year and so many months that I've been here, we have not had to use one. I hope we never have to use one, and I hope that a sprinkler head never goes off, because you do not want to experience that. I have it other districts, I have it at Temple. We don't want to see it, so.
Well, that's right, the flip side of that is we want to make sure that they work.
Yes, and we hire professionals that certify all of these to ensure that they work. Their company and a huge lawsuit would be on their hands if they don't work.
Mr. Roosevelt?
Facetiously, can you recommend that he expand his business ventures into tennis courts?
There you go.
Probably should have passed the message to him,
But,
and many other,
An auditorium like.
and everything else. And maybe cleaning and food service and
No, but
substitute teachers.
in all seriousness, I think that if he's got this experience going back years servicing these districts, he knows our buildings, he knows us, he wants to work here, and sounds like he's an honest individual. So
Yep.
I agree we should award him that. And I also agree with Ms. Ostaski, if we can increase the number of his contract, from 3 years.
This is-
To 5 or whatever,
This is one in hindsight,
yeah.
not knowing this was gonna happen. In hindsight, I wish I would have waited 5 years.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
I mean, and exactly what you said, if all of that didn't come into play, I would never come here and recommend this.
Yeah.
But all of that to come into play, that's why I'm making the recommendation.
Okay. Well, please just, for safety of everything, just follow up to make sure these are being, they're above board and everything.
Yep, so what happens is that, they come in typically in July and August and, tag and certify all of the extinguishers and replace the ones. And then the building mechanics go through and double check. I think Soul Finestone, we had maybe 2 that got missed, just through construction and not realizing there was one in a new location. And then I believe we had 1 missed at Goodnow, and they came back immediately. Other than that, that's the only 2 locations that I knew that they had missed anything. So the building mechanics definitely double check everything.
And in the fall, a lot of fire departments have,
Yes.
they do a fire safety month. And a lot of times they have a whole bunch of extinguishers and can provide training on how to use it.
Yep.
Which is good for the kids. They like that.
Absolutely.
Any other questions? Okay, before we get to the upcoming agenda items,
Yes.
I see that Mr. Hidalgo just left, but I guess then the administration is looking for consent agenda items for items C through K. Are we okay to move those as consent agenda items? Here, and I guess, like I said, those of us that are here, 8 of us now, I know Mr. Hidalgo just left, but,
No objection.
okay. Okay,
Consent
this
there?
would be consent, perfect, thank you.
Upcoming agenda items, again, the full day kindergarten ongoing discussion, that's not gonna leave this slide for quite some time. And then, summer 2024 bids. So, Doug and Dewey will be in to present the bids that we opened, I believe, on March 19th. And then, the remaining bids that are listed will be in April and May. Sprinkler maintenance, my favorite air filter. Folding partitions, water sampling and testing, water testing and treatment, bio-waste, ballast, battery recycling, and environmental.
That fund sounds real good.
No, and environmental professional services. I am excited that you guys will have the wonderful experience of this air filter bid.
We like to get some feedback.
It's, I hate this bid. This is one that once we wrap up Soul Finestone and Richboro, hopefully we can extend some of the contracts with the air filters, but I have my team frivolously working on it to clean it up, so we make sure that our counts and our sizes are correct, so can't wait to present that one.
Thank you for all of that presentation. It was very thorough. We appreciate it. There is no public comment here since there is Ms. Horner.
Do you have an update on the Chancellor elevator, please?
Oh, yes, I'm glad that you asked. We've started. So we did receive all the permitting and we started on Tuesday. So right now they have installed, began to install the piping. They did hoist the elevator up, so I was able to see in the pit today for the first time. So we are actively working on it. We believe it's about another week and a half for actual physical work, and then scheduling the state inspector to come out. There is, to my knowledge, right now there are only 2 elevator inspectors for the state of Pennsylvania. So that is typically the delay with scheduling inspections, and the same inspector for the elevator does the chair lifts. So as soon as we get them out, we'll be accepting applications for the first riders.
You include me. It's fine.
I would write it in first. It's gonna be a great project, and I can't wait till
Did
it's.
they find a leak? Wasn't there some sort of hydraulic leak that was through?
Yeah, so, find, no, because we didn't rip up the floor, but we know it's between, the machine room and the,
Put a
head.
new line set in, or?
So we're running it above. We didn't want to open up the floor for numerous reasons.
Yeah.
So they're actively working, we're running it above head, and then into the machine room.
Great.
Coring's already done, that was done, I believe, was it President's Day? Yeah, it was, President's Day. So coring of the walls are done,
So we're just actively running in fact, they were set up in the parking lot today, working on the Victaulic piping and putting the bridge in it, the piping, so we're moving.
Great, anything else? We get a nod to close meeting? Motion to close, okay?
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Good evening.
Thank you.